And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin, and Rochelle, I've got some strange news for you. I'm in Seattle, and through the clouds, I saw this great big ball of yellow in the sky, and I think the world's coming to an end. Or maybe that's, I don't know, the
I
sun.
think I remember I told you I was going to send you the sunshine.
Oh, you did do
So
that,
you're
didn't you?
welcome.
And by the way, we've got a great show for you today. Anna.
Anna Sosnina is with us today. Oh my gosh, Kevin, I'm so excited. Not only do I get to personally go and meet her because we live quite close together, but she is so in our world. She is helping people by providing coaching to exist in support to people who feel like they're ready for their next chapter. What is more important than that?
I can't think of anything, so we'll be right back with Anna in just a second. There's a moment in every life when you decide to rise.
To stand taller than your fear.
To speak louder than your doubt.
To chase the vision that sets your soul on fire.
This is that moment. And here we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire,
and truths that set you free.
This is Positive Talk Radio with Kevin
and with Rochelle,
where hope has a voice.
And that voice
is yours. And welcome again to the show, everybody. Anna is here and Rochelle is here. This is, I have to tell you, I am so lucky I get surrounded by beautiful women all the time.
So lucky you are. Me too.
Yeah, I know. It's just remarkable, and you started off by talking about our website, but let's make sure everybody knows exactly where they need to go.
Yes, everybody, please visit her website and follow along with us. She's got everything on there that we're going to follow along with. So EssorVie.coach is where to go. And welcome, Anna. Thank you so much for being here. Is there another way you prefer to say the website?
Oh no, it's actually sounding perfect as EssorVie Coach, exactly how you spelled it. And Kevin and Rochelle, it's such an honor to be here. It's such a pleasure to be having this conversation. I was really looking forward to our talk today.
And I'm going to take everybody back into the mists of time. And there was a moment in time when Anna woke up from a sound sleep and she had a thought. And so she took that thought and she wrote it down. She still has the index cards today, and that has become the foundation of her coaching career. Am I correct in that, my dear?
That is correct. That I do still have the index card where the 5 steps of EssorVie Method were written one morning. A little bit back then when, and that definitely has changed a few lives up to this date.
And you're just getting started. You're going to be changing more lives, and some of them are even going to be in Salt Lake City, in that area, which is where Rochelle is as well. So I got a feeling the two of you are going to have to exchange information and go out to lunch and have a chat.
We absolutely will. That's a great opportunity for networking and making friends. So, Rochelle, I'm going to look forward after this show. Let's exchange the phone numbers and then grab a lunch.
Yes, and thank goodness that we got the opportunity to run into each other on the network side of life before it was in person, because it probably has happened more than once since we're both here. But Anna, what made you want to be in coaching?
You know, Rochelle, I think it is a calling that I've always had. But I personally have gone through so many reinventions throughout my life, and there were people that stood by my side during those times of reinvention. And sometimes reinvention can be more intentional, and sometimes it can happen accidentally due to certain circumstances. But what really called me to become a coach was that I want to make a difference in other people's lives. I really want to lift them up and deliver value. And hopefully, if I change one life, help it steer in a direction of positivity, clarity, and intentional change, I have achieved my goal. If it's just one life,
Beautiful.
that's
I
how,
have bad,
in a nutshell, I arrived at the decision.
I have bad news for you, Anna. You're going to change a lot more than just one life.
Well, that's great news, actually, Kevin. I'll go with that.
Well, I didn't want to upset your expectations, but the work that you're doing, and I know you know this, is so needed by so many people. And as we discussed beforehand, a lot of people are interested in change, but change can be hard if you're trying to figure it all out by yourself and you're talking to maybe a significant other or friends and family and who may have a different agenda, or they might want to keep you where you're at, or whatever it is. And so a coach is somebody that can talk to you where you are and really help you achieve what you have stated that you're after. Would that be true?
Well, a coach actually creates a safe space for the client to own their goals, own their direction, own their strategy, and ultimately provide the tools and, by the mean of powerful questions, uh, help the client and guide them to go where they'd like to go. But the process is always client owned. The process is always um, directed by the client. It's what they want to work on. It's what they want to accomplish. And I'm just there for the ride and to be their co-creator. That's a co-creative process that we engage in.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's how Burchelle and I met each other, was through a mutual coach that we both had.
Yep. And thank
Wonderful.
goodness for that.
What were you being coached on?
I had a question, and that question was, because I've been doing this for a very long time, since you were a little itty bitty teeny weeny girl. And I have had, I don't know, maybe a dozen co-hosts that I've tried from time to time to work with me. And I was working with a particular gentleman and I wasn't real pleased with the direction. And so, and this gal had been on the show several times. She knew me. She knew what I was looking for. And so we talked about it for a while. And then she said, I think I've got somebody that may work for you. And that's how I was introduced to Burchelle. And so coaching meant the world to me because she helped me identify what I was actually looking for, verbalize it, and then be able to act on it. And as it turned out, voila, there she is.
And I like how you said verbalize it. I think that point is very important. Our brain actually reacts differently to a verbal cue. So if you're just thinking something and you're simmering on it and simmering, it doesn't have that same effect as when you say something. Even if you're just talking to a mirror and you say, my intention is to grow a business. My intention is to have a stellar career. Your brain picks up on it like this, and it becomes a cue to act. And your brain zones that are wired to start creating that plan, that's what gets activated when you verbalize it. So it's the way you talk to yourself is very important, and how you say things to yourself, not to the world necessarily, but to yourself at the first place.
Well, and one of the things that she said, because as you know, Amir doesn't talk back a lot, but
It does.
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Exactly, and you know what that means, don't you, Burchelle? We're going to have to play that later. But but in any event, what really helped me was me verbalizing it, and then her saying, "Okay, this is what I heard you say. Is this is what you meant to say? And how did you mean that? That made me think about it at a completely different level than I had thought about it before. Because when you're thinking in your own mind to yourself, you don't ask critical questions that are helpful in growing who you are, like a coach can do. Do you
Well,
agree with that, Anna?
Kevin, also Anna,
Yes.
she would always say, "How does that thought make you feel?" And
Yes.
I had never tied the two together. So thank you for mentioning that, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Kevin,
it became
that
very
is,
important.
yeah, that's absolutely a powerful question that she asked you. And this is what I do as a coach. I do ask those powerful questions. So while the client owns their direction and their goal, I do ask those questions to help them explore how they feel, because our bodies, they have a response. And sometimes that response is exactly what you need to look for when you're exploring a new idea.
Mm.
And whether it is a good response or a bad response, we call it a gut feeling, but really it's your body telling you this is your path, or no, maybe you're not going in the right direction.
Hmm. Kevin
Rochelle?
knows. Yeah. Kevin says that too. Like we are so caught up in our heads that if we look at ourselves as a whole with how we're feeling or whatever we're thinking about, how there's signals and there's signs and there's things that maybe we don't
Yes.
notice because we're not picking up on that. And I love Kevin's perspective of how our coach was and how it helped him, because for the longest time I thought that we kind of had the same situation happen, because we've talked about it many times, but I'm realizing how different it was, because Kevin knew exactly what he wanted and he was having somebody help him pinpoint how to get to that place and the steps ahead to get there. And I had no idea. I did not know what I was looking for. I was figuring it out. Who is Burchelle? What does Burchelle want? What is Burchelle capable of? Why? How? And Kevin came into my world, and this isn't even what I thought I was going to be doing, but I did. And it all started just from me being willing to make that choice and that change. And I would never go back now. Anna,
Yeah.
do you just get so excited because you know what that feels like for people?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I get and before you joined us, when Kevin and I were just in a waiting room for a moment, getting to
Mhm.
know each other a little bit, we were talking about how it feels when you're building something new. It feels like you're walking that tightrope between fear and courage.
Mhm.
And sometimes that first step, it feels like you're jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I make it one of my goals to help that first step feel less like you're jumping into abyss and you don't know what's going to happen, but make it very clear, very intentional, aligned, strategic, and then that leads to action, and cherry on top brings results. So
Yeah.
that is one of the pivotal points.
I love that, because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
Well, and Anna,
it can feel, yeah. Go ahead.
well, and when we come back from this break, I want to delve into what you discovered when you woke up, because I don't know if you know this, but I do my best thinking at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up from a dead sleep, and then I have a thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to the computer, which leads to, I don't know where it goes from there, but that's kind of my deal, the way that happens. So I would love to for you to tell our audience, because this is very instructive for people, because Anna, you were paying attention at the time.
Yes.
And a lot of people are not paying attention, even though they get the same, not the same message, but a message that fits their life and their situation, but they don't pay attention. They dismiss it. They don't listen to it, and that is the paramount to getting the success. In my opinion, getting the success that you want is you have to pay attention and you have to listen. Am I close in that?
You're absolutely on point in that, Kevin.
Well, you know what? And then there's also that mirror thing. So we're going to play that real quick and we will be right back. We're here with Anna.
Anna Sosnina, everybody, go to her website and see this for yourself. EssorVie Coaching. I love how you put it into perspective of soar. It's your turn. So stay with us, everyone.
And then we're going to soar together. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. A woman spent years hating the reflection in her mirror. One day, she whispered, "I am enough." Day by day, her reflection became her friend. Self-love begins with the words you tell yourself. Speak gently, because you are listening. This is brought to you by Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive.
And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald, myself. And today we get the honor of having Anna Sosnina here with us to spend her time talking about her coaching life. Visit her website, which is EssorVie.coach, which is EssorVie.coach. And she's got everything there and teaching people what it is like to learn to soar. I think that's amazing. And Kevin, you had a question.
Well, okay, what is it like to soar? And how did you come up with that? Well, you came up with it at first thing in the morning on a index card, and so I'm dying to know, what does it all mean?
Yes. So before we dive into the index cards and the actual structure of the EssorVie method, since our conversation today is reinvention with intention, I would like to dive a little bit into how accidental versus intentional reinvention happens. And both happened to me, and I know it's going to happen to many of our listeners today. Many times throughout our lives, we reinvent ourselves. And sometimes it happens because we are either burned out or we are following opinions of others, or maybe it's just a reactive decision. But there is one common denominator for making that accidental change. It is rooted in a lack of clarity and alignment. And exactly the opposite happens when the change, the reinvention is intentional. And intentional reinvention is always grounded in very deep self awareness. It's grounded in clarity, it's anchored in direction, and sometimes analyzing your past experiences and understanding what works and what doesn't. And in software development world, we call it data-driven approach. So nothing wrong with taking that same approach to your personal life. But why clarity is so important and why I put it as a first building block in the EssorVie method was because I was reading a post, and the post was about a study that was actually done about what causes a burnout in our mind. And it actually is not the physical action that we take every day, it's that limbo state when you just can't make a decision. When you're thinking, do I want to stay at this job? Do I want to leave this job? Do I want to stay in this relationship? Do I want to look for someone else? Even sometimes when you can't make a decision about your dinner, that can be exhausting. And that will take a massive, massive effort from your brain just to be there in a place of undecided. And a completely different feeling happens. And that kind of goes back to our first 15 minutes, Brichelle, when we were talking about how your body responds. Um, when on your path, when you are on your path of clarity and alignment. It's a completely different feeling. You know when you're moving, where you're moving, what your action plan is. And somehow it happens easier. It's easier for you to get up in the morning, and you know your purpose when you get up in the morning. And it no longer becomes a chore, because you know where you're walking, and your brain no longer consumes all of those resources to process that undecided. And so that's why when I woke up one morning, as Kevin said, and I had that idea, and I know, Kevin, you mentioned that some sources may call it a download or something that comes from your higher self, which I absolutely believe in. And I had that idea that 5 steps that would take my clients and myself into a completely different realm. And I had this pyramid idea in my mind, and I wrote it down on an index card. And the 5 steps were clarity, alignment, strategy, action, which takes you to result. And I then put it into a pyramid. I drew it all out. And then later, it all became an EssorVie method that I now use when I coach my clients.
Hmm, that's amazing. Where did the name come from?
The name EssorVie means life elevated or a soaring life. So it denotes a movement up and a motion of growth and expansion. But soaring is what I took for a tagline. Soar, it's your turn. Quite
I
easy.
love it. I'm obsessed.
As well you should be, because that is that blueprint that you're offering is just a wonderful way for you to gain clarity, which is number one, about your situation. And then if I firmly believe, and I love your opinion, Anna, that clarity is the key to understanding and for everything. Because when you're clear about what it is that you would like, then in my mind, the universe then goes to work to get you what you want, because you're clear and you've decided, and so it makes sense to me. Is that kind of where clarity comes from?
Yes, absolutely. You're exactly on point, Kevin. Um, Clarity is the absolute building block, because without it, everything else, it's kind of like having a very solid foundation for your home. Without that, everything just crumples down.
Anna, I have to ask you, we're talking about clarity, and I've I've heard it in a new way to explain it is to give yourself the time to question why, what, if, all those things, or not the if, but how you're going to achieve something. How do you keep somebody in a healthy space of doing that rather than going down the rabbit hole, but spending the time they need to go through those questions with themselves? Is it about asking yourself the right questions?
It's about looking inside of you. And in most sessions, when we are just getting to know each other with my clients, we have a little ritual that we do. And I'll have my client put their hand on their heart, and I'll say, sit with it for a minute. What do you feel? What's inside of you? Where
Mm.
do you really want to go? And we will sit there as long as the client needs to arrive at those answers. But what it does, it's that moment when they really get to look, maybe for the first time in many days, many months, many years, because we live in such a crazy world. We're constantly doing something, we're rushing, and it's so easy to stop hearing yourself. But we already know what's inside of us.
Mhm.
From the moment we're born, we know why we're here, we know why we're doing things, where we're supposed to be going. But without that space that the coach creates for you to really sit with what's inside and what's in your heart, that's what changes things. That what really
Mm.
allows for you to feel through what the path should be. And the next step in the strategy that I built is alignment. And that what helps you escape that rabbit hole. Then we will look, we've identified what is it that the client wants to work on. Now, how does that align with where they are in life? Are there any steps that we need to take that would be intermediary steps between where we are today and where we need to be in order for us to have that next strategic step, in order for us to take those actionable steps that we will later identify so we can arrive at the result. But the magic of all of that happens when we turn it into an iterative loop. So those 5 steps we then take and we start iterating on them. And that's when you're able to really examine what's happening. It's that point where you can make an educated and data driven, if you will, decision on whether you need to pivot or stay on the path where you are. And that's a big part of the method. It's a big part of what I'm trying to um, uh, offer the clients, the tool that they use throughout their coaching process. But it's that iterative approach, an intentional approach that usually makes a big difference.
I agree.
You know, Anna, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot here, and it's a word that keeps coming up, and so there must be a reason why this word keeps coming up. It's called pivot, pivot, and that comes from there's a Friends thing about they're carrying up a sofa, and he says, "Pivot, pivot, pivot," and what that tells me is that you need to be like Rochelle's very light on her feet. She's a dancer, she's a figure skater, so she can pivot easily. I'm not so light on my feet anymore, so pivoting can be a bit more of a challenge, and that's why when you're talking about what the coaching style that you have, teaching people how to be able to pivot in a light-footed, quick and meaningful way. There's another word that keeps coming up, is meaningful. That's really important, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And let's talk about pivoting for a minute. And Kevin, I'm sure that living in a beautiful place as you do, you probably do quite a bit of hiking, right? I know Brichelle definitely does. I know I definitely do. Do you like hiking?
I lived through Burchell
No, he
and her.
loved it. He loved it. Don't even listen to him.
Well, I used to.
Well,
I actually did 50-mile hikes when I was a kid
Yeah,
and all that kind of
he
stuff.
did.
But I've now pivoted to a sedentary lifestyle. So no, I'm not as young as I used to be. But in any event, I love nature. And I love to get out into the woods. And by the way, and I just have to say this, Anna, if you don't mind, just real quick, when you have the opportunity, because I live in the Great Northwest, and we have these huge evergreen trees and stuff. Next time you're outside, I want everybody to do this. Walk up to a great big tree, and I want you to just put your hands on the trunk and feel its energy and its vibration. It's a very humbling thing because everything's alive outside. And Rochelle even likes to pick up bugs outside. But anyway.
Yeah, I'll like, as Kevin said, he can live through me. I'll collect the things from the mountains and bring them to him. But sometimes you have to pivot, even in the mountains. So Anna, talk about that a little bit more.
absolutely. And that's exactly where I was going to go next, Brichelle. This is working out so perfectly. By the way, my favorite hike here in the Wasatch Range is Lake Blanche. And maybe we can venture out and, you know,
I might have been on it. I don't know.
Go take a nice walk. The way I relate coaching and life in general to the great outdoors, because I love the great outdoors. I'm a skier. I love hiking. I water ski. I stand up paddle, lots of things. And there is no really bigger playground for any of it than Utah. So when you are living here in the valley, you kind of get a weather pattern change, right? So it can be really nice, and you can be planning this fabulous hike in one of the Cottonwood Canyons, and suddenly you arrive at Alta, and it starts hailing in the middle of July. And it's a true story. I once was planning a hike up at Alta ski area, and when I arrived there, it just started hailing out of nowhere. I didn't even see those clouds from the valley because they were just, conveniently sitting up at the top. And that was, this is kind of like how life works. It's very much like a hike. When you are planning for one thing, but then there are obstacles, there are underwater rocks, but also there are the most fabulous views. There are crystal clear lakes, and the most gorgeous flowers that you'll ever see. So and pivoting is what you do in nature. When you recreate in the outdoors, you need to stay tuned, you need to stay educated, you need to look around you and make that educated change if you need to, because you're not going to hike under hail. You don't want to do that. It's not safe, it's not fun, and it's a lot more pleasant when the sun is out again. So maybe you just need to pivot a little bit, or wait an hour or two. And the same is with life. You just need to constantly evaluate. You need to stay tuned to whether or not your plan still aligns with who you are. And this is why the iterative approach to reinventing yourself is very important.
I love that you've brought this up, Anna. When we come back from the break, if it's possible, Kevin, I'd love to talk about the power of what's in your toolbox. And I'll just leave it at that.
And we'll be right back right after this. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio Network. We're on a mission to entertain, enlighten, empower, and educate through inspiring music, dynamic conversations, and yes, laughter. Join me, Kevin McDonald, and Brishelle as we declare our freedom from hate, division, and fear, and celebrate a better way of living. Go to positivetalkradio.net to find out more.
If you're a woman running a business and feeling stretched, overwhelmed, or stuck in reaction mode, this isn't a you problem, it's a CEO shift problem. The Women's Success Summit is where women entrepreneurs stop working in their business and start leading it like the CEO. You'll leave with clarity, strategy, and an action plan that you can actually use right now. If you're serious about your business and your growth, this room is for you. Don't miss the Women's Success Summit, April 13th. Connect with a community of powerful women and gain real strategies to grow your business. Seats are limited. Register at p2q.link/summit26.
Oh, and I got to say this before you say that. Brichelle's got the next question because she's got something meaningful going on. So bring us back, Brichelle.
Yes. Thanks, everybody, for being with us on Positive Talk Radio today with Kevin McDonald and myself. But what's special is we get to have Anna Sosnina here with us. Everybody, go and follow along, please. Her website is EssorVie.coach, which is EssorVie.coach. And let me remember what I asked you. Oh, yes. So you're talking
Toolbox.
about, yes, I think of the toolbox because maybe there is a way around the obstacle, and sometimes we learn to be patient, but sometimes we got to learn to take some action, pull that umbrella out and put your jacket on and put your hiking boots rather than your flip-flops and those kind of things, and use what's in your toolbox in the way that can continue to progress you forward. So how do you help people build their toolbox?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes people already have a lot more than they realize. And what I help them do, simply discover the tools that have been there all along, and they're really nothing new. Sometimes we discover new things, but most of the time, a person already knows it and they're like, oh my God, I've known about this all my life, but I never used it. In other cases, we need to learn to use the tool, the right tool for the job. And sometimes a person may think about a situation in one way, but by the means of asking those powerful questions that draw the insights for the person, they see it at a completely different angle. And they realize that the tool that they have been using may not be the right one. They just need to pivot and bring something else in the picture. So it's all about having those deep introspective conversations, questions that are asked at the right time in the right space that allow for the person to reveal to themselves what's already in a toolbox and how to use it.
That's profound.
I love that. And by the way, I love how you start conversations with people by having them put their hand over their heart, because most of us, we live our lives from event to event. Going to work, taking the kids to soccer, making dinner, going shopping, doing all the things, doing the things that we all think we need to do, but we forget to be who we are, and we don't even think about it because we bury it so deeply, because I don't have time to be, I'll think about that later, because I'm too busy doing. I can't be doing stuff and being at the same time. So I love the way that you encourage people to be and sit with themselves so that they can come up with some authentic things that they would really like to accomplish, but may have never even considered it. Is that kind of one of the epiphanies that comes through?
I believe so. And I like how you just said that we forget to be present, and we forget that the life as it happens, it really happens now. It happens in the present moment. It doesn't happen in the past that we sometimes like to dwell on, and it doesn't happen in the future that we dream about. But we forget that life is here. My life right now is this conversation with you. What's going to happen in an hour or so, it hasn't arrived yet, but I'm here, and I try to be anchored and present in the moment that's now. And I also help my clients remember that as well.
Can we pivot? Because I have a question.
Yes, that's pivoting is exciting. Let's pivot.
I am so fueled up because I know I'm not alone in this, and I've got to know your perspective, Anna. How do you help people build confidence and structure it in a healthy way that feels good without the ego or the conceitedness coming through, but still being able to fully be yourself without limitation?
Hmm, that's a very good question.
Yeah, I wish I'd have thought of that.
I think, yeah, that's
Well, I'm
a really
struggling in
great
that way.
question.
This
And
idea
and
of confidence to me is hard to grasp with lately. And I know there's most of us walking around that really don't understand, well, what does it mean and how am I supposed to feel with confidence?
I think the question that I would ask a client would be, what's important to you? And ultimately, we will always move with courage towards things that are really important to us. And not only that, when we understand why they're important to us and where it's taking the person that's working on their goal. So, that place of courage you arrive at naturally when you know the importance of your goals and you know the why. And for all of us, why may be different. Some people will do things because they have children. Some people have a spouse to which it's important. And sometimes the goal may be important just to us personally. But when we know the importance and we know the why behind that importance, courage just naturally arrives. And we start taking steps towards what's important, because ultimately we live one life. We may live another life elsewhere, but today and in the moment that's now, we're here and we're living this life. We don't know how
Kevin,
much of that life we have.
it's so extreme that you just said that, because I'm realizing that I'm fighting myself, and I've known that, but I didn't understand it. Does that make sense, Kevin? Do you
You
see
didn't.
that? Have
Now
you seen
Yeah.
that in me?
Yeah.
that's
Well, yeah.
profound.
That is profound, because, and that is how sometimes these epiphanies just show up, because you've been put into a position, and what Anna said led you to that, so that you could then feel that, in a real meaningful, deep way. And that's what coaching can do, can't it, Anna?
Absolutely, 100%.
Here's the example. Work with Anna. No excuses.
Well, you just gave me a bunch of shout outs. I would like to, you just made me think about something. We've been talking about pivoting and courage, and that made me think that sometimes we have a feeling inside of us that just not too comfortable, and it makes us fearful. And sometimes that will make a person pivot. I think I would encourage that person to wait and not, because there are very clear reasons why a person should be pivoting, and maybe they are misaligned with their goals. Maybe they're not progressing and they're putting a lot of effort into something, and that kind of goes back to our conversation about the tools, which tools to use. Maybe we're not using the right tools, or maybe it's not the right path, and we need to reconsider again. That iterative approach comes into play, and we inspect, we adapt, we take a look at what information we have today. Maybe it changes things, and all of those points, they should inform whether or not a person should pivot. I would discourage pivoting if you're coming from a place of fear and discomfort. That actually means you're progressing. Believe it or not, but when you're not comfortable and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm stretching and I'm forming those new brain pathways, this is the place of growth. That's where you want to be. You don't want to sit in a place of comfort all the time and be like, hey, great, I feel great every day, I feel comfortable. That's when you start stagnating, and then eventually your progress will stop. So I personally seek discomfort. I seek situations where I would go and it would make me feel, "Whew, oh my God, this is new. That makes me feel anxious, because I know that makes me grow." So this is something that I just thought about when you asked me a question about courage and ego and when we want to pivot or not.
That is amazing. It's good advice.
Yes, indeed. And sometimes Anna, I want your perspective on this, because sometimes we just don't pay attention. We don't pay attention to the things that are around us, the signs that we've been given. And some of the signs can be really clear. But if we're not paying attention and we don't listen because we're too busy thinking rather than being, it can be a very difficult time. And that's where the clarity comes in, because clarity can give you a clear, I guess. Can I use clear to describe clarity? Does that even work? I don't know.
I think
But
it
does
does.
Isn't that half of that word?
does any of that make sense, Anna?
Yes. Yes. And I think what you're saying will resonate with a lot of our listeners today, because again, we live in a very fast-paced and chaotic world, and it's very easy, and I would say effortless, to become detached from who you are. And there are so many examples when a person just follows not their path, but the path that somebody dictated, or a path that was um, grounded in somebody else's opinions, which we don't want. We want our own path. We each want to walk our own path that was intended for us. And this is what coaching helps you create. It's about living less in your head and being more present in the now, and being more um, uh, tuned in into today. There was one trip I took to Maui, Hawaii, and I was very lucky to meet with a person who is a musician, and he is living currently in Hawaii, and we went on a hike. And he told me that we're going to be doing a feel your feet meditation when we hike. And I didn't understand it at first, but what it really meant, not only that you're hiking and you're paying attention where you're stepping so you don't twist your ankle and get hurt, but also you're grounding yourself, you're being present in the moment. Each step you take, you observe the beauty around you, instead of listening to this buzz that's constant in your mind, and it'll always be there unless you intentionally stop it, unless you bring yourself to now, and you do that feel your feet meditation. And I've taken it more than once after that initial first hike in Hawaii with that person. um, and it did help me feel a lot more grounded and a lot more present.
I love
Can
that.
you describe feel your feet meditation? Because Rochelle tells me that nobody can touch her feet.
Well, feel your feet meditation is when you're feeling your feet and you're walking and you're really paying attention to every step, every movement that you make. And after that, I think I was so out of tune with my own body and how it moves. I actually noticed very subtle movements in my toes as I hike, which I was not aware they were there before.
Yeah.
And those subtle movements, you were like, oh my God, my body can do that. My body can kind of, you know, roll and step in certain ways that when I'm constantly focused on that voice in my mind, I don't notice that. And I think it's pretty incredible. We don't notice such simple things about how our bodies work, about how our body is intended to work as a system with your mind, but we break that mind body connection. And
Yes.
it doesn't happen intentionally. It happens because we are so consumed with all the noise that's around us, with all of the social media, all of the news, the job, the runs to do the groceries. And it's really easy in our day and age to become unattached to who we are.
Well, and it feels so good to when you connect not just with yourself, but with the source of all living things into the ground. It's realizing how much energy you give and how much you can
Yes.
absorb. And it's
Yes.
phenomenal. I love it. And Kevin, after this break, I've got quite the question. So I'm being patient.
Well, first, Anna.
Sosnina, her last name,
There you
everybody, is
go.
Sosnina. I love it. That is very unique. Go to her website, which is her coaching, EssorVie Coach. I love that that's a thing. Spelled EssorVie.coach. And she's got all the information on there, of course, and then the opportunity to contact her and book now. So visit that and get curious with it.
And one of the things in life that we don't do very well Even though God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, we still use our mouth a lot more than we use our ears. But if you take the time and to listen to yourself and perhaps to your coach, you may find that things change fairly quickly. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. You know, the world doesn't need more noise. Everyone knows we have enough of that. What we need is more listening, because listening creates understanding. Listening builds bridges, and listening reminds people that they matter. Real progress happens when we slow down long enough to hear one another, not to fix, not to judge, just to understand someone else's point of view. When conversations are rooted in respect and humanity, they have the power to heal, inspire, and move people forward. That's our mission. That's why we're here. I hope you'll join us. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Brichelle is with us, and Anna is here. By the way, Anna, how do you like those pieces that we like that one that I just played?
I absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. I think you really have built something unique. You and Brichelle have built something very unique.
And
Love ya.
love ya, and the check is in the mail.
No, okay. I have to spit this out. I feel like I'm going to explode. Okay.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Kevin, what did you say right before we left the break? You said something around. Oh, no. It was Anna.
Listening.
Said, okay. So here's the thing: is this was huge for me. Is not just listening to others, but listening to myself. Listening to that subconscious voice that's just dun, constantly in my mind and getting a grip on it. And I love my life because I have these days and these moments and these times, Anna. I'm going to show you in person when I get to meet you soon. This I found yesterday. It says freedom. And
Wow.
I still don't think I understand exactly the meaning behind me getting this. But as we're talking about all these things, and Kevin said, just be. And I was over, I took a walk, and I kept looking at my phone, kept looking at the time, kept stopping and pulling myself in the moment I was having out of it. And I was aware of that. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go around this other corner, and I'm just going to let myself be. And I found this on the ground. I screamed, and there was absolutely nobody around, but like I'm having this huge moment, and I took a picture of it. I picked it up, and I'm thinking about this conversation we're having, and you're talking about soaring and how free it must feel to soar. And I love that you've incorporated all of these things that many coaches do: the clarity, alignment, intentional action, the empowerment. But you didn't leave out the most important part, which is you saved the best for last: sustainable growth. We get through all of those things, and then we get back to square one, start over. And to have this freedom and to be able to truly soar.
Process.
Yes, to be able to truly soar, you have to be sustainable in your growth. How the hell do you help people do that? And what does that even mean?
Absolutely. Great question, Brichelle. Sustainable growth comes from ownership. And this is where one of the prominent ICF standards comes to play. When the client really owns the process and they own their goals. No one knows better than us where we are, how we feel, and whether or not we're ready to take that step. Only the person who owns their steps can determine that. And this is why it's very important that the ownership of the goal and the process and the strategy lies within the person who is really trying to accomplish those. It's not up to me to make any remarks or comments, or I can help along the way. I can provide tools. I can ask questions. I can sit with the person. I can create a safe space. I can build a space where a person can safely arrive at the point of clarity and alignment. But what I cannot do is feel and know for sure whether it's right or not. And once the person really steps into that ownership, they are then able to navigate it, but at the pace that they're comfortable with. I don't know, maybe the person isn't feeling well today. Maybe they're not feeling well physically or mentally. And pushing them would just create friction. And that's what we don't want. We want to be like water. We want to create a flow. We want to create synergy. But once a person really owns it, that's when the magic happens. When somebody comes to another person for advice, that creates dependency. Because once you receive an advice, you may want another advice, you may want another advice. But I really truly believe that each one of us, coming from the place of clarity and alignment, we know how fast we can move. We are very capable of walking our own path and make sure that we do it in a sustainable way that is only true and individual for us.
And Anna, you said something that I think is really key, and that is you create a safe place. Safe place. I was just thinking about pick a daily your daily life as an example. You get out of bed. Did I get up on time? Okay. I go, what am I going to wear? I've got to do this, and now I've got to get in my car. I've got to. Oh, damn it! I got to get gas before I get to work. I'm going to be late for work, and now Am I doing my job right? Are people going to be yelling at me? Am I doing this okay? Oh, I got to go to lunch. Oh, I don't have any money. I got to go to the bank to get. So we end up incessantly not being safe and being in control because we're always worrying and stressing about stuff that we don't have control over, but it's going to happen. And providing a safe space is key to being able for people to start reflecting upon their own self in a safe manner without having to worry about all of the crap that is surrounding them. Because did you ever watch Peanuts? Charlie Brown and Peanuts?
Yes, yes. Actually, I have.
There was a character called Pigpen. Do you remember Pigpen, Michelle?
That's not me, I swear to God. It's not me.
But Pigpen had this dust cloud that always surrounded him. Everywhere he walked, there was dust in the. That's how a lot of us live, like Pigpen, because we've got so much stuff. And creating a safe space with clarity is paramount to getting the results that you're looking for. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And also, you said something about constantly living in a world that moves. That creates a lot of noise. How many of us actually sit in silence throughout the day? How many minutes versus all of that chaos, all of that noise that the world so readily delivers straight into your phone, straight into your TV, or just, step outside and you'll hear it. But how many minutes do we actually spend intentionally in silence? And it's so important for your brain to be in silence, to be really present, because that's when it zeroes out. And it's a scientific fact. It's not something that I came up with. It's something that I read about. I read a lot about how our brain works, how our brain and body are connected, and how it all functions as a system. And it is pretty incredible that we miss out on such profound resource and a tool that's available to us as silence. Just sit in silence for 10 minutes a day. And you'll be able to hear just how much noise you have in your brain. And then trying to silence that down, or just let it run through you, but really allowing for your brain that moment to zero out. So creates capacity for new things to arrive into your life. Because all
And
of that is not, it's just neuroscience.
Yep.
thank you for saying that, because when you calm yourself down and let it be, the gospel according to Paul McCartney, that I say that all the time, let it be, that allows your intuition and new thoughts, quote unquote, downloads to enter your reality so that you can become and continue the path that you designed before you were even born. But we block it so many times because we're not paying attention to it, because we've got so many other things to worry about, especially if you're a woman. You take yourself last. Everybody else comes first. And very rarely do you ever have the time when everybody else's needs are met, and now you can be and take care of yourself. That's true, isn't it?
Yes. And it's very interesting that you noticed that based on the gender, we may feel differently about the world and things, and that may be physical aspect of it or a brain aspect of it. But it's very true that sometimes we as women, we put other people first, and it's a lot harder. And actually, I have been working a lot with mothers, because mothers tend to have that period of their life when they're raising their children, and then that next step when they are maybe rebalancing towards more towards their career, maybe they're thinking to take a next step. That can be very scary to them, because they have been just so focused into raising their children, which, by the way, I think it's absolutely beautiful thing. But when you arrive at that next step in life, which you want to take just for you, it may be very scary and you may feel very detached.
And by the way, that's why many men play golf. And somebody's
I
going,
play golf.
what the hell are you talking about? When you're on a golf course, you can't drive away. You can't worry about something that you can't control, because you're in the middle of a friggin' fairway someplace. So you just need to focus on what you're doing. And Michelle, you had an impressive point. And then, dang it, Anna, you've got to come back. Will you come back? We've run out of time.
Absolutely. I'm actually working on a book. I cannot reveal yet what the title will be or what the book will be about, but it's in the works and it will at one point become a thing. So I'll be back to highlight that. And thank you for having me today.
When it becomes a thing, you have to come back. And we may have you back before it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Happy to be back. If you have any ideas, I'm open.
Yep.
We gotta go have lunch.
That's it.
That's for sure. That even goes without a saying. We're not gonna wait until my book is ready until then.
And so, Michelle, I sadly interrupted you, and did you keep that thought?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I'm going to use one of your words. It's profound to our health, our literal whole structure of health. That pause is so important, because that's
Yes.
when you allow the safe space to listen to yourself. I am obsessed with this conversation, and I'm so glad that you've been able to spend this time with us, Anna. I am just through the roof, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for Kevin and I, and for you, and to have you a part of this. So Kevin, thank you so much for making this possible. My days are beyond words. It is such a
today
pleasure.
Fun.
Yes. Anna Sosnina
I know it was fun for me.
Yes, good. Anna Sosnina has been our guest for the hour. Please, everybody, go and figure out that you can soar through working with her at EssorVie Coaching with EssorVie.coach. That is EssorVie.coach. And thank you again so much for allowing people to realize, Anna, that it's their turn to soar.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.